is 6:37. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time and Jim Telemonte.
Metra is reporting delays and a cancellation on the Union Pacific Northwest line near Des Plaines. There's a vehicle stuck on the tracks. The train scheduled to leave Des Plaines at 7:26 this morning will not operate. Oak Park, there's a crash still affecting North Avenue west of Austin. There's a right lane blockage on North Avenue and a tow at the seam, but there's some congestion in the area. Inbound Kennedy, traffic is slow Harlem to Nagel and Lake Street to the Burns Circle. It's 20 minutes O'Hare to downtown, outbound 19. The Eisenhower is now 25 minutes, 390 to downtown, outbound 24. Stevenson, 22 minutes from the Veterans Memorial Tollway to DuSable Lakeshore Drive. The ride is 15 minutes, 95th to downtown. I'm Jim Telemonte.
Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast. A couple of heavy thunderstorms could crop up. High 84. Thunderstorm this evening, otherwise rather cloudy. Warm and humid. High 73. 71 right now. Next news at 7. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560. The Answer.
From the Matrix Home Solutions Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560, The Answer.
Listen to AM 560 The Answer online at 560theanswer.com, on the AM 560 mobile app, on your Alexa-powered smart speaker, and on TuneIn, iHeart, and on Odyssey. If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560 The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan, and in for Amy J this morning, former state rep, congressional gubernatorial candidate Jeannie Ives. And J.P. Morgan CEO Jamie Dimon was on with Maria Bartiromo over the weekend talking China because of the forthcoming rollout of J.P. Morgan China. And he just is not as worried about the Chi-Coms as some other people, as he explained.
We do business in 100 countries, and we do it under the laws of those lands and under the law of America as they apply. Think of Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, sanctions, and OFAC, and things like that, so that we will adopt and change so we can serve our clients in the proper way under the law and foreign policy set by the American government. It's not set by J.P. Morgan. I am not as worried about China as everybody else. And remember, America can do things unilaterally. If we don't want to buy Huawei, we don't. If we don't want to do X, we don't. We don't want to buy some, and they can do the same thing. Countries have the right to do unilateral things, and my guess is we'll find a common ground. And the strategic, and America is doing the right thing, by the way, to reaching out to our allies. Our biggest weapon is our allies to set global terms of trade. And about all these issues you read about, tariffs and state-owned subsidies and stuff like that. I'm not as worried about as other people. America will still be the most prosperous nation on the planet. It'll be smaller than China, but still far more prosperous in 20 years.
Mm-hmm. And J.P. Morgan says, on balance, J.P. Morgan being in foreign countries, providing capital for business development there is a positive thing for the world. And again, his hands are tied. He's just a banker. He just follows U.S. foreign policy.
We've had plans for like 30 years about going to China. And unfortunately, we just said you could say about a lot of countries around the world. When we do something in a foreign country, we follow American foreign policy. You may not believe this, but American foreign policy wants a J.P. Morgan to properly expand, to serve American companies, other companies, and to be part of that. If at the point in time they decide they don't want us to do it, we simply will not do it.
Mm-hmm. And this was an interesting point blank from Maria Bartiromo to Jamie Dimon, just in terms of how can you trust doing business with the Chinese communists? It's a good question.
Do you really believe J.P. Morgan's going to be in charge of J.P. Morgan China?
Yes.
You do?
I do.
Is Jamie Dimon being naive or worse? Let's put that question to our friend Jim Iuorio, who's just back. I think he hopped a plane with John Kerry, come back from Obama's 60th birthday party. I thought I saw him on the dance floor right behind Erica Baidu. I think I saw him there. Jim Iuorio, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Yes, all my killer moves. Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, all right. Congratulations on being part of the in crowd. He also the proprietor of Branson Palatine. I have to mention that so I get free meals when I go. Jim, what about the words of one Jamie Dimon? Hey, he's captive to U.S. foreign policy, and that's that's what informs the business decisions that J.P. Morgan does. That's interesting. Just one more footnote. All of these corporate titans, Jamie Dimon's certainly one of them, they love to talk about their values. They love to talk about their values in the context of American culture. They don't like to push their values, though, when it comes to running headlong into, say, Chinese communists who are committing genocide.
The thing, it's complicated, though. There's a long axiom in economics that just say goods cross borders or armies cross borders, take your pick. So, I mean, it's a good thing for foreign relations. Now, that being said, we're talking about China here. We've seen what other companies have been kind of brought to heel, like I'm talking about the NBA, obviously, about, China and the pressure they have. So people just salivate over the population there. But China has, and it's not just the fact that China has a long history of stealing our technology, but they have a long history of manipulating their currency. They have a long history about human rights violations, too. But what I'm trying to say in the long term is that this is a complex issue. I am mostly against going to China and just seeing dollars instead of seeing the bigger picture. But it's not the worst thing in the world in my mind. Does that make sense?
It does. I mean, again, I'm not, offended generally with the notion, but I'm offended a little bit. Offended's too strong because I don't get offended, but I'm
by him saying his hands are tied.
It's a little bit.
I'm offended by that too.
It's a little bit of an eye roll where it's just like when Mike Madigan pretended to be just a state legislator. Jamie Dimon's just a banker. Yeah, okay.
I'm just a small pawn in this whole thing.
Yeah, I'm a community banker. Well, what can I do? Right. Come on.
We can agree on that 100%. I thought that was high form of comedy right there. Yeah, they can do what they want, and they will do what they want. And it's funny that you mentioned and that Ben and Jerry's their decision, which goes clearly against U.S. foreign policy. I believe there's laws in place that you can't institute boycotts like that, applied like that. So I think that it's a weird thing, and everybody uses it to their advantage.
I don't know what the problem is, Dan. Isn't he just meeting his diversity goals by expanding into China?
Well, there you go. Right, exactly. He's another. That's a good example of promoting, those values,
his values
here, but not being so keen to talk to the Chinese communists about, values that should unite humanity. I don't know, things like not being murdered by your government. Let's just say, I'm a bit of a stickler.
Yes, amen. But again, I'll go back to what I opened it up, is that so you can look at it from two different angles. There's a reason that people in the economics world had that saying about armies crossing borders too. So if you're going to change things, there's two ways to do it. One is to put intense embargo pressure, paint them as our enemy. I actually prefer that one, but there are things to say. There's some positive arguments to make about opening up trade and commerce.
Let's talk about the July jobs number. Not as strong underlying as the number suggests. 960,000 jobs, but 230,000 were a boost in state payrolls. 230,000 new jobs or on state payrolls. Gosh, I wonder where they got the money for that. But still, 703,000 jobs is a good number. It beats street estimates. What's your general view on that number in the context of where we're at in terms of the continuing recovery from the lockdowns?
Well, the recovery is moving in the right direction. Here's a couple things that amaze me. When we saw that number, we know for certain it's no longer an ambiguous point that the government's policies of paying people what Goldman Sachs called unusually generous unemployment benefits was keeping things from moving in the right direction. And once some of them have been lifted, now we see things moving in the right direction. Again, you mentioned it was a good, not a great number that people interpreted at first. There's some things to worry about it from a stock market standpoint, is that year-over-year wage growth was high, month-over-month wage growth was high, which is unambiguously a good thing, except if those companies are competing with the government to pay people. But it also may put the Fed on notice that they have to start tapering or start tightening up monetary conditions, which the stock market does not want that. And I don't want to go too deep into the weeds with the morning drive before people have woken up. But there's a balance that has to be there. And when the market can say, oh, maybe this Delta variant will keep the Fed from tapering, then the stock market can be happy. But I don't know if you guys saw what happened last night in markets where there was some disruption in the gold market, which dragged stock markets down. So again, I'm getting into markets away from economics, but some interesting things going on.
No, well, I want to actually. I had a question to you. And what's your view on this? Sort of characterization that circulates about calling our Fed Gas Fed, which is a reference to the Russian central bank. and the idea that there is no dissent. In point of fact, the Fed Board of Governors, there was like no dissenting vote for the last 5 years. Everybody there is in agreement with everybody else, and that just can't be true. But they want to present a unified front with respect to these quantitative easing policies in particular. And I just want, and so of course, the reference to, I'll give you your opinion and then you'll repeat it sort of approach that you see from the Russians. That's sort of what we have here, it seems.
Well, there's a worse element of it, too. They're all in agreement on something that is most probably wrong. They're right now in buying $80 billion of Treasury bonds and $40 billion of mortgage-backed bonds per month. Now, just break that down in your head. They buy mortgage-backed bonds to support the housing market. Well, if you take that out of the picture and just look at the housing market, would you say the housing market's too soft? Clearly not. The housing market's going crazy in all parts. They're pricing people out. So the Fed they said, I think it was 10 years ago, that they were going to be much more transparent. Who cares? First of all, they're not going to be much more transparent. Secondly, if they were going to be much more transparent about what they think, they've never really shown any indication that they're greater, deeper thinkers than the private sector economists. So who cares what they think? They're doing the wrong thing. I guarantee you that.
Well, that's often what happens with groupthink. One other matter. Can we just, if we're not going to do free tuition through the front door and maybe free rent through the front door, then let's just do it from the back door. Can we just extend student loan forbearance and rent forbearance forever?
Well, you know what's really funny about this? We just talked a second ago about Goldman saying that unemployment benefits were too generous and they were keeping things back. We know that now, and now it's just that they move on to the next thing. They just start shouting more about eviction moratoriums. The JOLTS number comes out today. The job openings number comes out at 9 o'clock Chicago time. Last month it said there was 9.2 million unopened jobs in this country. There's a lot of people, and I know if someone's going to scream at me and point fingers and say there's regional discrepancies, there's talent mismatch, but there's still 9.2 million jobs that are looking to be filled. This does not seem to be a recipe for eviction moratoriums or universal basic income or paying people student loans. This stuff is all asinine.
He is Jim Iuorio, analyst for Fox Business, proprietor of Brant's in Palatine. Great ribs, burgers, everything else.
Oh, thank you.
Jim, always a pleasure. Always a pleasure.
See you guys.
Thank you. And he joined us on the Turnkey.pro answer line.
Connect with Dan and Amy using the AM 560 mobile app. Download it today at 560theanswer.com/mobile.
I'm Lou Dobbs. United Airlines mandates China virus vaccines for all employees. The Big Apple plans to require proof of vaccination before entering restaurants. Those stories next.
Have you ever thought you'd like to buy and sell houses but didn't know how or where to get the money? My name is Ron LeGrand, and over 39 years I bought over 3,000 houses without using my money or credit and taught thousands to do the same. Today, even in a COVID environment, we buy nice houses in nice neighborhoods using